Hi, my friends. My name is Sterling Hart, and this is Dreamlight, where we work with dream interpretation and using the insights in waking life. What does it mean to dream of a murder? Either one you committed or by someone else. What if you were murdered? This symbol can evoke a wide range of reactions, from weird to a nightmare, both in the dream and upon waking. Feelings of guilt or fear, afraid a murder is going to happen or that we might be capable of one. Murder dreams can also be flat, with little emotion, or even have positive feelings. Some might fear it may be a prescient dream, but let's assume it's psychological. I deal with previsionary dreams at the end in part 4. Death in dreams means an ending. Murder implies that you are symbolically connected to the cause of death. The overall theme is change and control. What do I mean by an ending? What types of things are ended? There are aspects of ourselves, our roles, our personalities, ideas, and perspectives. The death of a role would be a change in how we are perceived or how we feel and act in our relationship. For instance, a divorce is the ending of a role as the married person. It can be the end of a relationship, but that relationship could continue in a new way, such as when there is joint custody of children. So the role ends, our way of being with the other person dies. It can be reborn in a different kind of relationship. But the methods of acting and feeling are gone, replaced with other ones. How we think of ourselves and our identity changes. Think of relationships broadly. So we have a relationship with our work, with our money, and with our car. That means we have a perspective, ideas, and emotions connected to it. If our car has a problem, we could get frustrated or worried whenever we think about it. We have mental and emotional habits, reactions, ideas, and perspectives, feelings and emotional expectations. There are memories. All of these things can be symbolized in dreams. Psychological dreams reflect our inner processes. When a relationship ends, we may not recognize it right away. Gradual change over time can obscure the change, or a rapid change can cause us to be unaware of the ramifications for our ways of thinking and feeling. Working with dreams can show us these changes. Murder would imply that we acted to cause the change, or we feel something else acted outside of our control. This could point to anger or even satisfaction. Dreams don't follow the mores of waking time, just as we can enjoy a movie of a murder mystery. With roles and relationships, we carry an inner image of what these mean to us. They have a story about what happened and what will happen. These may not be accurate. Our internal image of other people may be different because of our past desires and ways of perceiving. We do this with celebrities, but also with the people around us. It's a matter of degree. We situate people with our ego aims and partially according to our agendas. This can be visible when we see a friend after a long time. We tend to think and treat them as if they haven't changed. Our subconscious brings up these supports, a foundation. In interacting with them, we discover they may have become very different since the last time we saw them. We may even try to draw them into the same relationship according to our current activities and find that they don't respond as expected. We may need to eliminate and replace our inner image with a better one. If you thought you knew something about someone and suddenly discovered something disturbing, it is like the person you knew is gone, dead, or murdered. The image in your mind, the one you thought of as accurate, can be destroyed. There can be a sense of betrayal and loss of self-trust. So part of us dies. A dream figure can represent that part. If you have a job where you are promoted, the old role can die. If the new position is quite different, your relationship with your coworkers changes. So the death of a role or way of looking at things is common, but why would a murder symbolize it? Because there is some action or emotion that caused the ending. Start with the statement, like the game of Clue: who was murdered, by what person, in what way, why, what was the motivation, and where? Some or even most of these things may not be known from the dream. We can be bystanders, witnesses, victims, or perpetrators in the dream. These can even combine. In a dream, we can be both the victim and the murderer. Witnesses and bystanders can blend together. A witness sees or knows of the murder. They are involved in it. Perhaps someone told them who did it, or they overheard it being planned, or they were there at the time of a murder. A bystander is not involved in it. They hear of the murder or know of it in some way that implies that they are not involved, such as in the news. Treat the amount of involvement as a kind of distance from the self. If something happens at work, it could be important to your sense of self, but not something that you are directly involved in. This would be a bystander. A key is if you know how the person was murdered or why. For instance, if they were suffocated with a pillow, this would be a slow death, starved of the life force. The life force could be the feeling of fun. Or we are in a situation where we can't speak and feel suffocated. If we know why someone was murdered, it may not even make much sense upon waking. This will usually point to the issue. For instance, a person was murdered for their vacation. Something killed the fun, or the vacation brought about a change. For instance, if you are a witness or bystander, someone tells you or you discover the body. This indicates that you are aware or are becoming aware of an ending and its consequences. With the bystander, you may be unable to act or influence the situation or still be processing it. You may not be directly involved with the situation, but it still affects you. For example, you can sense that there are changes at work, or you see that things are changing, but you don't have any power to control it, or you don't know how it will affect you. This sort of theme. In the dream, it may be part of the background to other events. I had a friend who dreamed he was in a large conference room and found the dead body of a knight in shining green armor, partially covered with lichen. He knew the knight had been murdered. He went up to the body and started rolling it over to look underneath it. He felt afraid he would be caught tampering with the evidence. Underneath the body was a hatch, like you find on a ship. Analyzing the dream, he related it to an alternative energy project at work. He had a new administrator take over and cancel the project. The dream revealed a kind of Don Quixote feeling of chasing windmills and a personal attachment to the project. Usually my friend wasn't too bothered by changing projects or cancellations. It was part of the job. But in this one he felt angry. It was affecting his work and he needed to get over it. He did understand why it was canceled. Part of it was that it was developed using outdated technology and wasn't big enough for the need. It was smarter to take the loss of the development rather than to bring it to fruition. The hatch reminded him of something that happened while he was in the Navy, which was the real source of the anger. Someone had failed to secure a piece of equipment and another sailor had been hurt. My friend thought that the wrong person had been punished. It wasn't the person who secured the equipment that failed. It was the person in charge that should have suffered the consequences for the failure. This incident had been outside his control at the time. The people in charge were more interested in their careers than making the situation right. Events at work had triggered that old rage and frustration, and he was forced to spend time working through it. He realized it was the lack of acknowledgement of the project's merit. It had aimed to accomplish something of value, and it had been canceled and should have been, but it had been treated in a way that diminished the value of the project in the first place. This was the murdered knight. The green was the idealism. The lichen reminded him of old gravestones and cemeteries. This made sense as he had been donating to a natural burial organization. In his mind, there were thoughts of how to contribute to something ongoing rather than just a thing or object. He didn't want to be attached to projects as many got canceled. He wanted to be focused on working towards something better and be flexible to allow it to change. A general theme of violence in dreams is acceptance. Being willing to accept something that you can't change and go on from there. When you can't accept something, this will lead you astray as you will deny it and the consequences will eventually come about, or you will mourn and suffer emotionally because of it. Good leaders accept things, even their own mistakes, which empowers them to act in ways to move forward. Lack of acceptance can lead to frustration and rage, appearing in dreams as the intent to murder. The plot writes itself. Someone kills to keep things from being discovered. In other words, changing. Lack of acceptance leads to clinging to things tightly rather than accepting things and working on problems. We defend rather than acknowledge what we have done or have to do. The bystander and the witness are similar symbols. They have another theme where you can step back and see an issue to process or accept it. The witness can see the murder or know that they did it without remembering it. There may not be any emotions in the dream or details, like someone out to get you because of what you saw. There may be no fear or guilt. It can be just a matter of fact. It could even be a positive feeling, as when someone or something stops something that needed to be stopped. The questions of who was murdered, how, why, and where are still important details if known. With no details, it is probably dealing with something that you have noticed but not realized, not thought about, or given a name to the change. The question to ask is, what has changed? Since it is murder, you can ask, what part of your life or self has ended? Another critical theme with murder is a loss of control. So I knew a guy who dreamed that his father had been murdered by someone who broke into his house. He didn't know why or how or who the murderer was. Later in the dream, he saw his father eating at the kitchen table, alive and well, but looking older. The dreamer lived at home with his parents while working to make money before entering a graduate program. When examined, the guy said that he had recently been focused on a robbery at work. The robbers had broken down doors to a shed and grabbed stuff. They were caught and linked to a series of house break-ins. This had frightened him. He moved his baseball bat from his closet to near his door. It occurred to him that he wasn't afraid for himself but for his parents. He realized that he had always felt protected by his dad. Now he was worried about his parents, and he realized he was going away to school, hopefully to a job, and wouldn't return except for visits. For him, the waking time burglaries, even though he hadn't been involved in any way, had caused the death of an aspect of his relationship with his father. His sense of childhood safety had been murdered. The vulnerability had left him afraid. Witness dreams can sometimes show us that we are affected indirectly by something outside of our control. It's like disturbing news. It's like a burglar that breaks into our house and steals something. In this case, it robs us of energy, positive emotions, and our way of living, and forces us to deal with it. It can kill the mood and poison the relationship. Another key element in dreams of murder is the setting. If the murder scene is known, this can indicate the subject matter, such as in the workplace. A home often represents the self and family life. The location may be indistinct or an unknown place. A strange place can represent that you are not very aware of what is going on and haven't really noticed or thought about it. Or it can also mean a distance from it so that it is removed from its context and attachments. It can mean you are unfamiliar with what is happening or that part of yourself. We'll go through more themes looking at the victim in Part 2. The role of the murderer in Part 3, and conclude with murder weapons and subliminal dreams in Part 4. See the links below. If you get something out of this video, please hit the thumbs up. If you want more dreams, subscribe or consider supporting the channel on Patreon with the link below. Till next time.